1 Chronicles 25, 1 and 2 says, "Moreover, David and the commanders of the army set apart for service some of the sons of Asaph, and Herman, and Jeduthun, and those who prophesy with lyres, and hymns, and harps, and cymbals. And the number of those who performed the service was of the sons of Asaph, and Zachar, and Joseph, and Nethaniah, and Azariah, and the sons of Asaph were under the directions of Asaph, who prophesied under the directions of the king." Now, if you're joining us in reading through this 90-day reading plan, today's reading is 1 Chronicles 25, and I encourage you to read that passage. Now, if you were in any branch of the military at one point or another, you ran across a chaplain. Now, this chaplain may or may not have met your expectations, but chaplains are in the military to provide a religious and moral presence to those who are also in the military. Now, my greatest military experience was with Chaplain Bill Clark. He and his wife were the two people who molded Tony and me into the people we became. We had the pleasure of serving with them for 3 years and then being their best friends for the last 45. And yet, one thing I will always remember was the day he told me that after announcing that he would become a chaplain in the Army, some people came up to him and asked him why he was leaving the ministry. David and the commanders of the Army understood that there needed to be an element in the Army that could point the troops back to God. The Army has a terrible job. At best, you're training to be at war. At worst, you're at war. There needs to be somebody present with the troops to point them to a different direction, to point them toward and remind them of God. Now, we need to pray for our military chaplains. They have a job like none other. If they're in battle, they're unarmed. By law, they cannot carry a weapon. When they go out to minister to those who are in battle, they're exposing themselves so that the troops can have an example of how to live. When they're back at the base, they're there as an example of how a person who has a relationship with God through Christ should also live. There are many different religious elements in the military, and yet as a chaplain who has a relationship with Christ must be able to be a witness for Christ, even when they're surrounded by those who don't believe and don't want to believe.